I honestly didn't think I would make a part 4 to the series, not because I don't think the rabbit hole goes deeper. With Mike, it honestly goes deeper, but because I don't have any proof. No documents, no letters, no facts to back up the deeper rabbit hole, which is why I hesitated to make part 4. But since Andrew Tate, weirdly enough, came back to the scene and intrigued me, and I'll come back to him in a moment, I decided to make part 4, trying to connect the dots. I'm gonna speculate about what happened to Mike from a bigger perspective, why and how it might tie together to the bigger picture, but loosely. So pure speculation, connecting the dots, no proof, no documents, just my intuition trying to connect it. It's basically an intuitive scenario worth pondering, especially considering the shifting power structures of the 2020s as our old powers are crumbling. When Andrew Tate came back into the scene after serving months in jail, he had an interview in which he spoke of people with influence using that influence to go against the system, to then being shut down by the system via the media. And I'm not saying that Tate is positive nor negative. He says a lot of things I agree with and some that I don't. Listen to what Tate says.
So I think the world has always only ever been a battle for influence. Even if you look at the current battlefield, Ukraine is next door, it's 5 hours drive away. The battle in Ukraine is not just about tanks and trenches and grenades. It's a battle for influence. Who influences the people within this territory? Who is in charge of the thinking, the language, the mindset of people within this geographical area? Every single battle, every single pitched battle, every single argument, every single debate has always been a battle for influence. If you have influence, you're an extremely powerful person. All of us here are some of the most powerful people in the world. How many millions of people listen to us? We have massive influence. That's what they say. Oh, because now he's rich and famous, I think it's unfair. It's asinine. I don't understand genuinely how a man can protect himself in the Western world anymore. How can you even exist anymore? If this is what they're going to hit you with as soon as you get to a certain level of influence, there's no man on earth who's safe from this. I said this to my judges. I had a few male judges. I said, they could do this to you. They could do this to anyone. They can do it to you or me or any man watching this. Any man watching this. They can put in the BBC 9 years ago you did something. They won't tell you her name. They won't give you any chance to defend yourself because you have no idea what they're fucking talking about. And they will print it on repeat until you lose your job and lose your bank and lose your social media. And then you're going to sit there bankrupt and depressed. And then they're just going to move on from you. And if you don't die, if you're like me, a cockroach who refuses to die, if you sit around and refuse to go away, they're going to make up a new one. It's crazy. And it's genuinely scary, and you're not safe from it anywhere anymore.
Why I mention him in a video about Mike is because Mike was far more influential than Tate. The attacks against Mike came because I believe, just like Tate, Mike was getting too dangerous for the top elite. And I do sound like a tinfoil hat wearing conspiracy theorist when I say the word elite, but let's face it, we're in 2023 now. Things that in 2012 were entertaining conspiracies are now truths. We all know that we are being surveilled. Snowden told us that some years back, and it's true. In 2011, you would have been laughed at if you said that circles that politicians hung around were trafficking children, Epstein, or that higher-ups in bigger firms such as Balenciaga did some very shady stuff regarding this. In 2023, these are facts, not conspiracy theories. If you would have said in 1990 that the government, those in power, are not necessarily working for our benefit, but rather trying to divide and keep us in control, you would have been an anomaly. In 2023, most people know the opposite is the case. People at least have a suspicion towards higher powers. Not all politicians or powerful people are negative though. There are powerful, good people. Mike was one of them. But what Tate is saying is that if you get powerful enough, you will eventually collide with people of power, especially if you don't join their club. And this is Andrew Tate we're talking about. He's one with 1/10 of the power Michael Jackson had. And who is they? Some people call them deep state. Some people call them the cabal. Whatever we call them, there is a possibility that these people are running banks and the media and industries. It's not out of the question anymore. Tate is saying some stuff that is threatening these people, whoever they are, with his unique way of expressing things. And I'm obviously not comparing him to Mike, but when Mike was alive, he did two things. One, he had a substantial amount of the music industry in his grip, And I've been through this in part 3, and Andrew Tate doesn't have that power. But more importantly, 2, he was culturally changing people's mind with positive music that had a positive message that he was topping the charts with. And in a way, Andrew Tate does have this thing going on. He's influencing people towards a different agenda than the higher ups through TikTok. It's not the same thing, but you get what I'm saying. In a time where gangster rap was coming into pop music stage, and I don't know if this is a myth, but I know plenty of people saying that music industry's top dogs sat in meetings with executives at labels wanting them to shift directions purposefully to make hip-hop about guns, money, and drug dealings, as opposed to the rebellious and conscious nature it used to have with KRS-One, NWA, and Rakim. In a time like that, Mike was dominating the charts with music that was about unity, empowerment, and rebellion. He was the antithesis of materialism, hypersexuality, crime, guns, and drugs, culture that we in the Western world have been programmed to worship as, cool, hip, and trendy. Bad's Man in the Mirror was a prototype for the emerging Mike, but it was particularly after the Dangerous in History era, 2 eras where he was expressing pop music, but pop music that had the potential to wake people up, that he started to talk about social awareness and did something positive about it. Jam was about the social ills of the world, a gray, fast-paced industrial song that talked about the realities of our society from his perspective. Remember, the time was actually, especially if you look at the video, about African American empowerment, not victimization. A video in which the pharaoh and the queen were dark-skinned, the Egyptians as well. History books in 1991 said something quite different about the ancient Egyptians. Black or White was about unification through diversity, with Super Bowl literally displaying a white and black hand shaking as a symbol for it. And it was showed to millions of people. They obviously didn't want to see this. Heal the World, well, the title says it all. It speaks of healing ourselves as a planet. This was all on the top charts, exposed to millions of people around the world. And no knock to The Weeknd or Drake or Taylor Swift or Beyonce, but we don't see multiple songs by them with a message like Mike's, except, I don't know, maybe you have God's Plan by Drake. Kendrick is the only big artist that I can see with a message like that, going deep into the trenches of healing. In the History era, Mike was angrier, straight up messing with the powers that be through they don't really care about us. Do you think the higher-ups preferred rebellious music like that, blasting throughout the radios? It's basically the antithesis of this song. Money has Michael actually naming parts of the elite. I think he mentions Rockefeller at the end there. Stranger in Moscow is Mike fleeing the deep state to a rival country, Russia. We get it. Mike's positive influence of unification, awareness, and rebellion on a large scale was starting to threaten the deep state. They couldn't have a super influential artist at the top charts spreading the opposite of their agenda, just like they can't have Andrew Tate spreading his influence. And again, Tate and Mike are very different. I'm not comparing them, but I am comparing how both of them have agendas that significantly go against the deep states. The difference in 2023 compared to 1993, when Mike was a one-man army in the music industry, is that the deep state now is panicking. It's no longer one man with significant influence going against the deep state. Instead, there are several players. I believe Trump is one of them, and even though I don't agree with everything he says, and he might not be the nicest of guys, I think he genuinely is an outsider, and Andrew Tate and Russell Brand and Joe Rogan and many others. The cultural landscape has been thoroughly infiltrated by outsiders that go against their agenda. It's not only in entertainment we have these outsiders going against them. Within the military complex, I've heard that there is an uprising of an alliance, the better half of the military fighting against the deep state. Globally, there is the BRICS alliance: Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. In addition to Kendrick, in terms of artists today, I actually believe Kanye is one of them, but he just doesn't know how to, formulate that. Mike in his time was single-handedly, on a big scale, going against the powers that be. I believe that the history army that he displayed in his promo was a symbol for this battle he was fighting, as opposed to today when we have several players that in some way go against the panicking deep state, who I also believe did want more control during, in 2020, the corona epidemic. In 1993, we had Tupac with Killuminati, Alex Cooper, Alex Jones, who nobody believed, and some underground artists and songs who had awareness. AZ with, We Can't Win.
They want at least 1.2 billion deceased, while the rest is left with the mark of the beast on a dome piece. Prepare the signs of the times now.
But Mike on the bigger stage was alone as a music artist. Just like the mainstream media today is basically attacking anyone who goes against their narrative, whether it's Trump, Tate, Rogan, or Brand, I believe the mainstream media went against Mike as a unified machine to bring him down, with a tactic that they use against themselves if somebody was to break out of their circle. The content of the accusers, what Michael's cases were about, in his case, child allegations. That's what's interesting here. We know that Epstein has this island where he invites powerful people to do God knows what with footage, most likely have you know what with underage girls as a means to basically blackmail them in case someone would break out of the circle of powerful people and snitch or something, career suicide in other words, even prison. These people do heinous things to blackmail people in their circle and thus keep power. I don't even want to know what the Bohemian Grove that Alex Jones described is, but I know that there are theories that these people do rituals and dark satanic stuff to keep their circle intact as a hierarchy of power. The darker stuff you do, the more power you might have. We know that powerful people such as Clintons and, others have been invited to this island. How does this tie in with Mike? In my opinion, and this is of course just my intuition, I think they use their own tactics against an innocent Michael to demonstrate to others in their circle what will happen if you go against them. If you have a substantial power in our industry or influence young people in a powerful way and it goes against the way we do things or our ownership, you will be ruined. Now, again, just a scenario. I'm saying this completely convinced that Michael was innocent. This man is not R. Kelly, whom there's proof for literally urinating on a girl. I've read several books that scene by scene describe the court hearings of Michael, and believe me, it's all a fraud. Utterly ridiculous how the stories of the accusers, especially when you read them thoroughly in the books talking about this, just don't hold ground and are super inconsistent. Read the book. This one. But that's all besides the point. Why did the mainstream media wait until 2019 to get R. Kelly, whom, as I said, there's proof for? Why didn't they even talk about Jimmy Savile when he was known to do extreme stuff? Or Prince Andrew? They went specifically for Michael Jackson, who they had no proof against because they saw his influence, his power, and wanted to use him as a demonstration for what would happen to others if you would go against them. They used the media machine just like they used it against Tate, except in Mike's case, it was more extreme. There is no substantial evidence to connect Arvisos or Chandlers to higher-ups in the deep state, not even as third parties that perhaps offered a lot of money to claim what they claimed. Sony also has no evident deep state connections, but the way Balenciaga has been acting lately with their social media post a year ago, some very dark stuff, and it being revealed that the owner of Balenciaga, Gucci, and other brands, the Kering Group, a bigger group that owns all of these brands, has owners that sell and buy very shady art pieces that I, of course, won't show. It's regarding children. Who is to say that bigger media conglomerates don't have owners with the same type of interests and values? These are the sole owners of brands we legit have mass consumed for many, many decades. Why would the same be unthinkable for people in other high positions in our society, whether we talk about media or music? Remember, Epstein and Ghislaine are connected to the Clintons and even other politicians. The media might not be connected to these people or no brand, but it's just kind of shady that they don't mention or talk about instances such as the Balenciaga stuff on Instagram. It's also shady how one uniform message regarding the virus was portrayed as the truth, when research nowadays is showing some very contradictory information to what we were told back then. And obviously, I'm not going to go into that. You can check Russell Brand. But one example is that the virus was lab created. And the reason why I'm mentioning all of this is this is the same media machine that was active during Mike's time. Don't forget that. It's just that we had no clue and we gullibly just believed everything they said. When it comes to Kanye, I hope and think that he's perhaps talking about this machine, the deep state, when he talked about the Jews. He just made a terrible mistake of categorizing a whole people as them, which is totally off the mark. He did something incredibly stupid in this case, but if he's talking about the same people that I'm talking about here, Kanye is fighting the same fight and trying to do what Michael was doing back then, being an owner against the elite. In other words, Michael was very, very far ahead of his time and did what a slew of people are doing now. He caused a panic in the music industry in 1985 after buying ATV and having a substantial amount of positive influence around the world, the way we the people are causing a panic for the elites in 2023 by waking up. The difference is Tate and Kanye are doing it in a different way, and Kanye is, as usual, not thinking about what he's saying, but if he actually said the thing he said about the Jews and meaning the Jews, then I totally condemn it, and he is just stupid. That's besides the point. The way the media attacks people today reminds me of the way they attacked him. He never joined them, so they wanted him down. He was a very big powerhouse promoting a message of love, unity, harmony that was completely opposite to their magnified message we are being fed today, whether it's hypersexuality, guns, materialism, or the underlying message of their beliefs and values taken to the extreme, like this. Also, maybe it's a coincidence, but isn't it kind of weird how he has a song very specifically called The Lost Children when this woman is highlighting an issue that nobody's talking about?
It is an honor to be here. I thank you for the invitation to share my testimony. My goal is to inspire action to safeguard the lives of migrant children, including the staggering 85,000 that are missing. Today, children will work overnight shifts at slaughterhouses, factories, restaurants to pay their debts to smugglers and traffickers. Today, children will be sold for sex. Today, children will call a hotline to report they are being abused, neglected, and trafficked. And we don't know if they're going to get the help they need. For nearly a decade, unaccompanied children have been suffering in the shadows. And I have to confess, I knew nothing about their suffering until 2021, when I volunteered to help the Biden administration with the crisis at the southern border. As part of Operation Artemis, I was deployed to the Pomona Fairplex Emergency Intake Site in California to help HHS, Office of Refugee Resettlement, reunite children with sponsors in the United States. I thought I was going to help place children in loving homes. Instead, I discovered that children are being trafficked through a sophisticated network that begins with recruiting in home country, smuggling to the US border, and ends when ORR delivers a child to a sponsor. Some sponsors are criminals and traffickers and members of transnational criminal organizations. Some sponsors view children as commodities and assets to be used for earning income. This is why we are witnessing an explosion of labor trafficking. Now, whether it's intentional or not, it could be argued that the United States government has become the middleman in a large-scale, multi-billion-dollar child trafficking operation that is run by bad actors seeking to profit off of the lives of children.
What is happening to these children that Mike wanted to talk about? And why the title, The Lost Children? It's very specific.
Ronald, you have a very strong background in the financial sector, asset management, deposit trading. As far as I understood, it was just a spectacle to you.
Yes. In my opinion, the darkness and evil is within the people themselves. I didn't make the connection yet. So I was a guest in those circles and it amused me greatly to see all those named women and the other things. It was the good life. But then at some point, I was invited, which is why I'm telling you all this, to participate in sacrifices abroad. That was the breaking point. Children.
You were asked to do that?
Yes. And I couldn't do that.
I honestly believe Mike perhaps knew something people didn't know, and I also believe he was actively fighting the power through his music with what he knew by spreading messages in his music that was the antithesis of these powers' messages and agendas. I don't know, pure speculation. My point is not that Mike is the focal point of the bigger picture. In 2023, when we have aliens, when we have the deep state, when we have like the economic picture crumbling to hell, when we have so many things going on, he wasn't, because this is a much bigger picture about transformation. The earth is going through a big transformation, and Michael Jackson was a big part of it, and the deep state also has a big part in it, because their role is now being phased out of the picture. They no longer have their roles to play. Their role was to give us a choice between, you know, what they represent, the negative and the darkness, and the bigger choice is the positive. In a way, they served a purpose to see the contrast between good and evil, and they played the dark side. But then we had Michael, who was the total opposite, who gave us the possibility of seeing the light and being positive. So there's a spectrum that they both played a part in this duality of good and evil. But as we were approaching this new, I believe it's a new time, golden age in a sense, their roles are basically phasing out. We can see it, we can feel it. They might seem to have become more powerful, more controlling, more manipulative, but that's because they are panicking and are scared. I think since they are being phased out off of our planet in a way and exposed, Michael achieved what he set out to achieve, which is to influence a slew of people to be like he was, a positive influence. Whether we're talking about the artists today or us as the average Joe, speaking about him and speaking about positivity through his music. He did it through his music. I honestly believe that he was trying to make a movement of love across the world. He certainly had a potential had he not had people around him crossing him. Honestly, listen to Captain EO, listen to Another Part of Me, listen to his discography. I don't know if he had a plan, but he was trying to do something bigger with his music than simply entertain. If he was alive, he would have seen that we are doing it as a people through the media that we have in our service. We are all against the deep state if we choose to come together as a unified, people. And I think he was trying to say that in one of my favorite songs of him, as I said, Another Part of Me. That song personifies what I think he was trying to do. That song actually talks about it in a way that I think subconsciously was going on in his mind while he was playing the concerts. If you look at his face and he's saying the words that he has a plan, it seems like he was trying to do something with the music on a much bigger scale. Hence, We Are the World, or Heal the World, or these bigger songs, Earth Song, that have so much more than entertainment value. He also knew that he had some very powerful and dark forces against him that wanted to stop his force of good, because that's what the deep state are for, the negative. So, I don't know where I'm going with this rambling, but my whole point is we're going through a big transformation now. Me talking about Michael Jackson is just a very small part of it. And this time is unprecedented with everything going on politically you know, economically and in entertainment and everything. I think in the bigger scale, Michael Jackson had much to say, but this is also a much bigger picture. I usually make these videos on a compass basis. I do it when I feel like doing them. I don't follow this views and things like that. I have other things that I do as well, so I might do the next video in a year or 2 weeks or a month. I don't know when my compass will point in that direction, but I hope you like this video, hope you subscribe, and of course comment. That would be super dope. So appreciate it. Peace.